Let's have a taste of mindful reading. I will lead you through part of the experience and you will finish it on your own in preparation for a class activity. I have chosen a story because all of you can bring something to this text, no matter your major. I can tell you that I have been enjoying this story for over 30 years, have discussed it at length, and realize each time that I have much to learn and figure out about it. The funny thing is that on the first read, you'll think you've got it. Just wait. Because this text is so short, 9 short paragraphs, I will do the first reading as you watch and listen. I think the best preview will be a superficial reading of it. I will read it to you, then I will do 3 things before you take over. I will show you my skeleton of it, that is, how I see the organization of this text, and I will also set a purpose for reading it. Then, I will start the second reading of mindful reading. I will demonstrate my mindful reading of the first 5 paragraphs. At that point, you will take over and finish this second mindful reading. Let's begin. Find the copy of the story The King and the Shirt by Leo Tolstoy. Please notice all the types of thinking I do as I am reading. Watch what I write down as I read. The King and the Shirt by Leo Tolstoy. A king once fell ill. "I will give half my kingdom to the man who can cure me," he said. All his wise men gathered together to decide how the king could be cured. But no one knew. Only one of the wise men said what he thought would cure the king. "If you can find a happy man, take his shirt, put it on the king, and the king will be cured." The king sent his emissary to search for a happy man. They traveled far and wide throughout his whole kingdom, but they could not find a happy man. There was no one who was completely satisfied. If a man was rich, he was ailing. If he was rich and healthy, he had a bad wife. Or if he had children, they were bad. Everyone had something to complain of. Finally, late one night, the king's son was passing by a poor little hut, and he heard someone say, "Now God be praised. I have finished my work. I have eaten my fill, and I can lie down and sleep. What more could I want?" The king's son rejoiced and gave orders that the man's shirt be taken and carried to the king, and that the man be given as much money as he wanted. The emissaries went in to take off the man's shirt, but the happy man was so poor that he had no shirt. What I'm going to do now that I've done a quick superficial read of it is I'm going to look at the organization. And here's what I see. I see right here, this is the problem. And right here, this is the proposed solution. So this is 1 and this is 2. And here are their actions. In fact, this whole thing are their actions. But this is the general action. A lot of things they did. And then here is a specific action. And then here's the surprise, the conclusion. So kind of 3, A and B and 4. So now I have kind of an overview of what it is. So now I'm ready to do my in-depth mindful read. So here I go. Okay, the king and the shirt. Okay, a king. I'm picturing medieval. And the shirt, and I'm saying, why a shirt? What does the shirt have to do with anything? Why this? And Leo Tolstoy, okay. I know that he wrote War and Peace, and it was a novel that I absolutely savored and loved. And I've read some other of his short stories, and I know what a wonderful writer he is. You see that I am bringing in my prior knowledge, background of things I already know. And I'm picturing medieval here, this feels like a folk tale. Okay. I'm going to do these first 5 paragraphs, and then you get to do the last. Watch what I do, watch the thinking I do. A king once fell ill. What kind of ill? What illness? I will give half my kingdom to the man who can cure me. Why so much? Half of the kingdom to the man who can cure me? So he is, are we assuming here it needs someone else to cure him? Is that right? So all the wise men gathered together to decide how the king could be cured. That's interesting that they would decide. And wise men, are they qualified, even though they're wise and smart, to take care of an illness? And do they just decide? But no one knew. Only one of the wise men said what he thought would cure the king. Now this is interesting because they said what he thought. I can take that several have a thought, but only one said it. Does this take courage to say it? Will they get their head chopped off if they say what they really think? Only one said. Is it because only one had an idea, even though that maybe they just said they didn't know? But maybe they do know, but they don't dare say, and only one dared. Maybe. If you can find a happy man, take his shirt, put it on the king, and the king will be cured. Why would finding a happy man? Maybe the king is depressed. Depression? Or does this man, this wise man who maybe has the courage to say, is he sure you won't find a happy man? But then this shirt, there are a lot of things. Maybe there's no happy man and he knows it and he knows he's safe. And take his shirt. This, I'm puzzling over why a shirt. Does it represent maybe material wealth, or maybe a basic need, given what I know from my quick read? Basic needs. What does it stand for? What does it represent? And the king would be cured. Because a shirt from another person can't make you better. What is he talking about here? The king sent his emissaries. Now I know emissaries, I see the word like missionaries in it, or to carry across. Missionary. So he's sending his people that carry messages to search for a happy man. They traveled far and wide throughout his whole kingdom. How big is it? But they could not find a happy man. You know what? I realized something really important that I didn't do earlier, but I know now what I need to do. And that is, I need to write my purpose. Because now that I've just read that again, I think my purpose is, how is Tolstoy defining happiness? I think that's what he's getting at. So I'm going to try to define that and see what he means by it. So they couldn't find a happy man, and I want to say, so what are they looking for? What is a happy man? Is it something you know it when you see it, or do they have something in mind? Do they have their own definition? Well, here are some ideas. There was no one who was completely satisfied. Is he saying that if you are completely satisfied, you are happy? Is that happiness? If a man was rich, is he saying that is happiness? He was ailing. If he was rich and healthy, so you've got to be satisfied, rich or healthy. He had a bad wife. So if you have a good wife, or if you have children, they are bad. This is interesting because it sounds like my happiness is dependent on someone else. On others. Okay, now I'm going to say something right here, and that is, if that's what he's saying, I'm putting a great big no. And I'm thinking of so I'm making a connection here. I'm thinking of my Aunt Belle. She has been in pain 24/7 for at least 10 years. And she is one of the happiest people I know. She doesn't complain. She makes jokes. She's laughing about things. But when you can catch her, you know she's hurting. And you can see it in her face. And when she moves, you can tell she's hurting. But she is determined to enjoy her life anyway. And one of my best things that she says is, when we invite her to go with us and we know that she's in pain, she says, well, I can stay home and be in pain, or I can go and be in pain. So I'm going to go and be in pain, and it's better than staying home all the time. Okay, now it's your turn. Finish the second reading of the last 4 paragraphs with pen in hand. Turn off the video and take all the time you need to do this in-depth mindful reading. Have the think sheet in front of you to remind you of the kinds of thinking you can do. Have fun watching your fine mind at work. Fill the margins with your thinking. Welcome back. How did the second mindful reading go for you? Lots of fun? Make you want to discuss his fascinating story? I wish we could. In this second reading, my job as a reader is to do my best to understand the author and to go elsewhere for help if needed. Now, in the third reading, because I can say I think I understand the text, I can now talk back, agree or disagree, and extend the ideas beyond the author's ideas. We will do the third mindful reading of the entire story. Post these 2 questions in front of you. What is the author trying to make me think, feel, understand, and know? This is critical reading. What applications of the ideas and information in the text can I generate? This is creative reading. Watch as I demonstrate how I would go about reading this story critically and creatively through the first 5 paragraphs. Okay, the king once fell ill. I will give half my kingdom. I'm thinking he wants me to really wonder here about the king. I think he wants me to maybe be skeptical about the king. I think he wants me to speculate what could be causing the king to be so unhappy. See, I'm even saying that it's as an illness that causes. The fact that I am seeing these men as being maybe frightened to speak up. Maybe this king has more power than he should. Maybe it's unjust power. And maybe Tolstoy wants me to compare and contrast a rich, wealthy king with a poor man, and really look at what happiness is. I think this is still number 1. I think Tolstoy, these are all number 1. I think Tolstoy is trying to kick me out of my common definitions of what happiness is. Common, what society maybe, definitions of happiness. Gosh, if I could be a king, wouldn't I have everything and be happy? And I think he wants me to try to decide what satisfaction is, this word satisfy. Because later, the poor man said, what more could I want? Is it that he's just ignorant of what he could have? Is that what happiness is? Is not knowing all the things that you could have in your life, so you don't know that you're not happy, or that you could be happier? So number 2, what are some applications or implications? Right off. I need to explore my own definitions of happiness. What makes me happy? I'm not rich, but I'm very wealthy compared to many people in the world. But I don't think it's that. What makes me happy? And the implications of this story. I'm going to think twice before I judge people based on their wealth or their complete lack of it. And the other thing, another implication is this thing of other people. I can't be happy if other people around me aren't doing what I want them to do. I really need to look at that and realize that I can make my own happiness separate from other people, even if they're really bad or they do things that could make me very despondent. I don't have to let that happen. Now it's your turn. You do critical and creative reading with these 2 questions posted in front of you. Stop the video and take all the time you need to complete this intense, stirring step of mindful reading. How did it go? Did you come up with some critical insights about Tolstoy? Did you generate some original ideas for applying the ideas? His ideas and your ideas? Now you are ready for the 4th reading, the Met Purpose and Review step. Here is what I chose to do with this text. How is Tolstoy defining happiness? Well, I can give my views on that, not that we will ever know for sure. And I have been in many long discussions about this story with other people, and we haven't come to definitive things, but it's always fun to try to think what he means by happiness. So let me give it a shot. I think Tolstoy is saying happiness does not have to do with your wealth, with your apparel like a shirt, or maybe any of your material things. It might have to do with some of these things at the end where the poor man praised God. He finished his work. He had enough food. He had a place to sleep. Maybe he's saying you can be happy with just the basic necessities of life, which means that maybe abject poverty doesn't fit. If you can't eat and you can't have a place to sleep, that's maybe not happiness. And I think he's also saying you find your own. You can't go find somebody who can make you happy. You can't have married or have children who are going to make you happy. They can help, that's for sure. But we all know people who have seemingly a wonderful family who are very unhappy. And we have people who seem to be in horrible situations who are making the best of it and looking on the positive side and exude happiness. So I think those are some of the characteristics of what he thinks happiness is. Now, the other thing I do in this is to review. So, and maybe I should have done that first, but that's okay. So there's this king. He calls his wise men together. None of them know what to suggest, or they might, but they don't dare. And one suggests something that it seems like he thought would be impossible. As it turns out, he was. To find a happy man, take a shirt, bring it back. And so all the emissaries go out and look. And I think it's interesting that his son was among those. I have some unanswered questions. What were Tolstoy's political views and social perspectives? What was the political climate in Russia at the time? Was he making a political statement with his story? If so, what? Now you try the 4th reading of The King and the Shirt. How will you prove to yourself that you have met your purpose? What review strategy do you want to use? Why that one? Stop the video and complete the 4th reading of the text. So, how did your review session go? Was the review strategy you selected useful? Was your approach good for this text and situation? In this video, I have demonstrated it to you and had you try it. Realize that usually you will do this in-depth kind of reading on selected parts rather than the whole text like we did today. I can guess what you were saying. This is way too time-consuming and laborious. It is if you want to be satisfied with a superficial surface learning and do not want or need in-depth learning of a text. It is your call. Remember, be selective for the texts and parts of text you read like this. Even a paragraph's worth of mindful reading is better than nothing. But please, do not bypass this kind of reading altogether. If you do bypass it, you will be reading to gather superficial knowledge that will flee your mind at the earliest moment possible, such as right after a test. Learning in college is hard work. This strategy shows you how to get the most learning for your effort. I hope this was a good experience for you, and that you will find many opportunities in your intellectual life to do mindful reading, and to experience the joys of reading those important texts in your life slowly and carefully. Happy reading!